Revolution Show, brought to you by SaaStock 2017, the conference to turn your SaaS up to 11. In this episode of the SaaS Revolution Show, Alex Thumer is joined by Patrick Barnes, co-founder and CEO of Advocately, a customer advocacy platform for B2B SaaS. Patrick talks about what it's like as a founder in driving the business through initial traction, his go-to-market to 7K MRR, and building a SaaS business in a new category. You can find a short write-up of my conversation with Patrick, including all names and links, on SaaStock.com/blog. Welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show. I'm your host, Alex Thumer, and super excited to be joined today by Patrick Barnes, co-founder and CEO of Advocately. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure, and good to speak to you again so soon after last week. You're back in Singapore.
So back in Singapore now. It was a great week in Dublin, though, and yeah, thanks for having the event. Looking forward to next year. Early bird tickets. Let's go.
Awesome. So Patrick, let's get to know you a little bit. Tell the audience who is Patrick Barnes.
I'm Patrick, co-founder and CEO of Advocately. Advocately helps B2B SaaS companies run customer advocacy campaigns, like finding their customers and getting them to write reviews online, refer their friends, case studies, that kind of thing. And before working at Advocately, my entrance to B2B SaaS companies and tech startups was working for a company out here in Singapore called TradeGecko. Mm-hmm. I was one of the earliest employees there, and so was my co-founder, and I was in charge of sales. And Lachlan, the co-founder of Advocately, was a senior software engineer.
Okay, very cool. And tell us how. So you're, I'm guessing by the accent, or actually I know that you're from Australia. And so how did you end up in Singapore?
Yeah, good question. So you're correct. I'm from Australia. Apologies to your listeners if they struggle to understand my accent, which hasn't quite faded away despite nearly 5 years in Singapore. I moved to Singapore. I was working for Oracle when I finished university in sales, and I was 23. And for some reason, I don't know why, one of the APAC heads who arguably had 10,000 people in his org structure. For some reason, we got on really well. I don't, and he's still a very good friend of mine, but he actually left Oracle and joined another software company and called me up and offered me a job and said, "Hey, do you want to move to Asia? And we'll do trips to the US and Europe and all these other sort of perks as well." And I was 23, so I was happy. I was like, "I'll come tonight. Let's go, Jono." So yeah, that's how and that was 4.5 years ago now, nearly 5 years ago.
Okay, very, very cool. Very brave thing to do at 23. Did you literally go the next day, or
No, unfortunately not. It was still quite a large company, so there were still subsequent job interviews, visas, budgets, contracts. There wasn't quite. I didn't quite get to book my flight the next day, but it did still move quite quickly.
Cool, very good. And so you mentioned the move to Singapore, the career in sales, being an early employee of TradeGecko, and then together with Lachlan from TradeGecko, you've co-founded Advocately. So correct. Why did you co-found Advocately? What was the I guess were you trying to solve a problem? What was the opportunity for you there?
So yeah, this good question. This was a problem that we faced personally. Like, review sites were really important for our business at TradeGecko. The leads who are looking at review sites and looking at user-generated content, whether they're reading case studies or looking at reviews online, they've got a lot of buyer intent. They're looking for a solution to the problem. Like, I looked for an Airbnb in Dublin last week to say it's SaaStock because I needed somewhere to stay. Lucky I did it a couple of weeks before, but it was quite last minute. But you've got a lot of intent. You've identified you're a problem. There is a problem. So your presence on these kind of review sites, or if somebody is on your website and they're going, "I want to read customer stories," they're essentially asking, "Is this product for me?" We're actually getting that user-generated content from your best customers and making sure you've got a variety of job roles and industries is really, really hard. So what we wanted to do is, we wanted to help a way to automate that. It was a challenge for us.
Okay, very cool. And so Advocately, which is a great name, it falls within what is I guess a relatively new category of advocate marketing. I think it was discussed a lot sort of last week, and is often you sort of read about it online. But everybody knows that building a SaaS business is pretty hard, and certainly in the early days. Getting to that first million is perhaps the hardest. I remember seeing the keynote from Tope from Calendly, saying that that the first million was definitely the hardest in their journey. Building a SaaS business and creating a new category surely makes it much harder. And so why would you build a SaaS business in a new category rather than going to something that already exists like MarTech or something like that?
Look, great question, and it's true. It is hard trying to build and sell a SaaS product that exists in a new category. However, I think so. Yeah, there's definitely challenges which come through that. We've definitely faced some of those challenges. However, it was a problem we knew firsthand. Like, we knew how important this was, and we knew how important reviews and user-generated content was. It was a customer we wanted to work with. Like, we're working with B2B SaaS companies. I love B2B SaaS companies. I know you do as well.
Too.
They're the sort of business I want to work with. I want to help them with their marketing and their growth. It's something I'm very passionate about. And we're also long on the idea. So whether or not if we say created expense management software, which has a very clear things that the product needs to have, advocate marketing isn't the same. But Lachlan and I both believed and continue to believe that the number of buyers reading reviews or reading case studies or asking their friends before they make a decision is going to be higher 5 years from now than it is today. And it's still very high today, but it's going to become more important and a more important stage of the buying journey. So yes, we did make it arguably very hard for ourselves through pursuing something new, but in the same breath, you can't really replace the first-hand experience, understanding the problem as people trying to grow a B2B SaaS company. The fact there were customers we wanted to work with and that we believed it would continue to be important or become more important.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And I guess yourselves, Influitive and others within that space, or any kind of new category, even if you look at, I guess, customer success is perhaps, a little bit ahead of advocate marketing. But similarly, Gainsight and Tatango and others, were coming into a new category and building, I guess, kind of thought leadership around that space and kind of betting on the opportunity in the long term that it's going to be tough in the early days for sure, but with all the thought leadership that they're doing, if the opportunity, if they're right, it's going to be really big.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's customer success is extremely good one to draw a parallel between, and that's just obviously several years ahead.
So one of the things we had, we shared a couple of conversations sort of last week at SaaStock, and one of the things that you shared with me, and I know that you're happy to share with the audience, is that you've just about sort of hit the 7K MRR sort of mark, for your business, right?
Yeah, just short. I can open up ChargeBee if you like, but yeah, just under 7K. I think $120 short or something as of 5:15 p.m. on Friday afternoon. Yeah, correct.
It's cool. I think I like rounding things up, and
go for it. No problem.
So if you're happy to, what I want to focus on this podcast now, we've got a little bit of background into you and
sure.
Advocately, is diving into the GTM sort of tactics that you've used to get you to 7K MRR, and then personally what it looks like also for you during this kind of traction phase, how you deal with this, are you taking the salary, the challenges, and also I guess kind of the positives of it. And I guess kind of like what the future sort of strategy looks like for Advocately, given I guess, kind of the length of time it takes you to get to 7K MRR. What are the plans to take you guys to the next level? So you're happy to dive into those three things?
Yeah, absolutely. The first one is very front of mind because that's what I spoke about at SaaStock. So that's
I heard from the audience you did a great talk, and I also heard from you that you killed it as well. That's what
I think I used the term I was appropriately nervous, but no, that's funny. So as far as how we got to 7K MRR, it's a process we continue to iterate on. But essentially, if I may say, how we acquire customers, for the most part, our process looks like we decided to build a list of companies we thought were perfect. So we're already a very niche product catering to B2B SaaS companies. What we did to build this list of customers we thought would be perfect for our business right now was to look at the software review websites. There are two categories. One is like G2 Crowd and Capterra, which are third-party review sites. And then there are also the software-specific review sites like Salesforce, QuickBooks Online, Salesforce App Exchange, QuickBooks Online, Xero, whatever, and identify the businesses that were actively engaging on those review sites, like had a high volume of reviews, were paying for those sites, or indicators they might be further along the understanding the importance and thus more likely to be interested in a customer advocacy product. So yeah, build the list, and that's how we built our list. Secondly, we thought a good way would be to give a product away for free, like part of a product away for free. And this wasn't like some 3-month, like rewrite some new thing. It was basically, people love Slack. So we thought anytime, we were happy to give away a product for free. That just anytime somebody got a new review, we could just notify them on Slack. That was our lead gen thesis. And from there, what we did is we sent the list of companies to Clearbit. Clearbit they have several products. What we use is their product called Prospect. It's essentially an API where we can send a domain and say we want a contact in a particular job role. So we said marketing or customer success or a founder, and then sent them a series of personal emails. We used a tool called Sales Whale, which is awesome. Some other tools are like SalesLoft or Mixmax, like that can kind of do all different levels of enterprise features, of course, that essentially do email sequencing, letting people to know about this free tool. Is essentially, there was lots of mistakes and quirks and lessons along the way, but essentially that's the shortest way I can explain. Build a perfect list, gave something away for free, let them know about it by email.
So part of the product is for free, but when do you start charging? What is the pricing model?
Great question. So whilst part of the product is for free, that was just what we typically used is that as an opportunity to open the conversation. So if you have set somebody up with a free, nice product and it takes 1 minute to set up, you can typically you might have 10 or 15 minutes left on the call. So we typically just very politely, once the setup is done, once they've got the free product and it's very clear to them, they know they've got it forever. It's not some bait and switch like, hey, have a free weekend, but we're going to try and sell you a timeshare the whole time you're away on this free weekend trip. We'd then say, hey, we've got some other products as well that similar organizations also like. Is it okay if I spend a few minutes explaining a little bit more about that? Is what we would typically say. And we've never had anyone say no. Just very gentle, very, very friendly. And if anybody did want to say no, that would be okay as well. And from there, we would do a proof of concept. I say proof of concept specifically as opposed to a free trial, because lots of free trials are inactive. Like starting a free trial and actually testing the software out are two totally different things. So we would help them run a customer advocacy campaign, report back to them on the results, and then ask if that's something they wanted to continue using, which would be the priced product.
And on the price product, so as you're kind of at this 7K MRR sort of number there or thereabouts, what sort of percentage of customers are using the free and then sort of, converting to this sort of paid element?
Look, very good question. So we've been running this go-to-market strategy for about 6 months, and I'd say it really clicked up about 3 months ago. So there's a lot of people, like some of the people are still in the pipeline per se, or still being worked on. But I would say from free to paid, I'd say like 1 in 2 people who get the free product set up properly convert to paying.
Okay, it's pretty a pretty good ratio. And those that are paying, to increase your MRR, have you considered perhaps raising prices?
Not yet. We're still trying to figure out, especially with, and this is something that's actually might be relevant to anybody who's on their journey to 7K, especially in a new category. I wouldn't get hung up on price. If you're trying to say, hey, we've got this new thing, it's not replacing something existing, and we think it's going to deliver this much value. Let's say, in our case, we think we can help make sure you get more reviews. It's better to get some money, of course, because that's a validation. It's almost like a certificate that says, hey, you're working on something that's potentially worth money, or that is worth money. But you wouldn't want to, having more customers using the product allows you to iterate and optimize on how good your product could be. So basically, I wouldn't ever want to lose a customer on price if you're saying they're perfect for you.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. And so, how big is the team of Advocately?
Good question. As of about 4 weeks ago, we are 4 people now. So there's Lachlan and myself, and we also have we hired 2 people as well. We actually we hired 2 people. They were sort of both people who were working for customers of ours, Advocately customers, who left those organizations, still very happy Advocately customers who'd left those organizations. Both of them basically left to move internationally or travel, and where we were happy. So we were happy. We don't care where they are, and the learning curve was super short because they know what Advocately does already.
So we hired them. And you're the CEO. I think is it fair to say, given your background, you're more in the sales, kind of leading the sales at the moment, and Lachlan's the lead engineer, or has helped develop the product. These 2 new hires, what roles are they performing for the business?
So one is doing marketing, and for us specifically, so the iteration on the go-to-market strategy has been to include like paid advertising on Facebook and the Google Display Network, which has been great for us. So he's helping manage all of that. And the second person, Charanya, she is helping on the sales side as well, basically taking more of an SDR type function, but a very data-driven SDR function, like helping get people from being leads to actually getting set up on the free product that's then handed over.
And are they local sort of people? Are they all based in Singapore, or where are they sort of geographically based? Because I think what I want to one of the things that we sort of spoke about last week was at 7K MRR and as a team of 4, it's like how are you are you paying yourself as a co-founder?
Sure.
We discussed that. At what point did you start paying yourself? How does it affect your personal sort of life and situation as a SaaS entrepreneur as you're getting traction? I guess because there are many people that are probably in the same position as you, Patrick, and probably sort of listening, and it's just kind of good to understand that more kind of human aspect of it.
Yeah, great. So really good question. This is so there's a few things there. So firstly, where everyone's geographically based, Denham is from New Zealand and lives in New Zealand, but he travels a lot. So when I was in Dublin for SaaStock, he was in Munich for Oktoberfest, and then I spoke to him 2 nights ago, and he was in Washington on the East Coast of the United States, Washington, D.C. So I don't know where he is right now, but he's moving around. And Charanya used to work with ChargeBee for many years, and she was the customer success manager who used Advocately there, and she's in Chennai in India.
Okay, very good. ChargeBee still talking to you after poaching their staff, right?
We didn't poach. Yes, they are. Absolutely. So I actually found out. So I heard Charanya. I heard she was leaving, and I heard she was leaving, and we were working with the new person. And then when I spoke to the new person, I was like, "Oh, where did Charanya end up going?" And she sort of explained. He explained that it wasn't like she's not like gone to another job or anything. She's potentially looking at what she wants to do next. And I just called her up and said if she wanted to do some work with us for a little while, and she could do whatever she wanted after that.
So back to the 7K MRR. Like, what point did you start paying yourself a salary? Has it always been a full-time? Have you always been all in on Advocately, or was it a side gig for the first year? How have you been surviving to this point?
So great question. So we've been on it full-time a bit over a year now. So when I came to SaaStock last year, we were like 6 weeks old. Just sort of getting started. And we did obviously a lot of customer development before leaving jobs we loved with all of our friends and that paid us really well. But I would say we've been at it full time just over a year. We took our first salary, I would say 3 months ago.
Okay.
3 months ago would have been the first time we took paid. And what we call it a cash flow salary. So I don't think anyone's putting away any savings, but you like pay rent, you pay for bills, you pay for food. And before that, we were just living off our savings.
Okay.
And sometimes, sorry.
No, carry on.
So that's 3 months ago. However, it's a funny thing. So 7K MRR, we jump around between, we had enough to cover our expenses, and then we decided to, you get a couple of bills, or you decide to go to SaaStock and fly to Europe, and so we had enough to cover our expenses, but then the new things would be kind of like, or hire 2 people, spanners in the works. So sometimes we still miss payroll or have to delay it for ourselves for a week or so, or just take a little bit less than the cash flow amount that we decided. But I think it's all just, part of the fun, and just something that we do.
So I think that, one of the cool things that I guess all the vibes I get off you is generally like the super sort of positive sort of person. So like even when you're like not taking the salary, or there are these kind of extra expenses and you have to delay it, does it ever affect you personally in terms of your motivation for why am I doing this? I'm only just surviving, or
no, not yet. To be honest, it was a lot harder at the start. So the last 3 months have arguably been a lot easier, going from, 2.3K to 7K or something. Where it's like at the start where you're, have the 3 customers who are your friends who agreed to sign up before you quit your job, and you're not adding any new customers, and you're chewing through your savings. Like we can sort of, that's before having any resemblance of product market fit, no go-to-market strategy. That was sort of, even though I had much more savings in my account, that was kind of the more challenging time, I think, where now it's kind of like, okay, I got to wait a week, but that's all right.
And also living in one of the most expensive cities or places in the world, right? Singapore's not cheap. Right?
So I think Singapore was named last year the most expensive city to live in the world. However, I think most cities, even the expensive ones, you can kind of spend it just sort of more means to me you can spend as much as you want. So rent, if you want to have a $10,000 dinner, you can in Singapore. I'm sure there's somewhere you can. But you can also eat locally and go to the grocery store and live a couple of extra train stops from town, and it's fine.
Okay. And so let's... So you've jumped from 2.3 to 7K in the last couple of months, which is great progress. How do you plan to take it now? From 7K MRR, let's say, to 50K MRR, or what is the next kind of milestone for you? And is it just doing more of the same? What is your kind of future strategy in the near term?
So I think in the near term, I think more of the same, except just a little bit, except better. Before we were doing the cold emailing to the people we decided were our ideal customer profile and giving them a free product. Now we're targeting them with Facebook and Google Display Network ads for 30 days before we email them. Now we've done this for 6 months. We don't actually do many emails in our outbound sequences. I know some people will say 6 or 8 or 9. we do more 3 or 4. So we can go back to the people we emailed about with the free Slack product 6 months ago and maybe come back with a different proposition, or or go back to Clearbit and get somebody else from the company. We contacted this person 3 months ago. They may have left. They may have gone somewhere else. It's to really, I think it's operating right now like just really tighten up that function, I think will be beneficial for us.
Okay, very cool. And we're coming to the end of the show now here, and just so remember another chat we sort of had last week, and which I think is something that perhaps sort of personifies you, but also I think really good entrepreneurs. Is that I saw that you were posting photos of yourself, boxing, in the mornings at SaaStock, and then you were running, you were doing your road work, and going to a conference is it's a pretty tiring thing, right? And they're long days. You're on your feet all day. There's a lot of networking. There are long evenings. There's a lot of food and drink sort of consumed in the evenings.
I had a couple of those long evenings with you, I think, Alex.
Yeah, it could be, And I think I said, you're going to get up like early in the morning and go for a run. How do you do it? Like, if I was feeling, these days it's a very rare occasion if I'm hungover or a little bit tired that I would go to the gym in the morning. But do you remember what you said to me as your response, or shall I help you out here?
Give me a helping hand.
Yeah. Well, you said that if you weren't feeling great when you were on your run, you would just run harder. And I don't know if that was bravado, but I felt it was kind of pretty genuine, and I think it showed a trait for entrepreneurs that they're just persistent, will work harder than perhaps the average individual, and it's certainly an impression I got from yourself, and I think we can see within the story that you've given of Advocately. So I'm optimistic that you keep doing what you're doing. Things are going to work out well for you, Patrick.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. Yeah, just to be clear, it's still very much like a day by day. I'm in Singapore, so the time zone is a mess. So I am, I was up till 4:30 a.m. one day this week. It's not all like, this isn't like we're crushing it story. It's just like a very, hopefully, honest and open explanation of where we're at and some of the things we did together.
That's the other thing, and like a good reminder. You said that like on many days you're working until like 3 a.m. just to deal with, because most of your customers are in the US.
Just to be clear on that though, I then sleep in an appropriate level of time. I'm not like some psycho getting up at 8:30 and just working till 3. I still make time sure I have time, go to the gym, eat, go out with mates. But yeah, a lot of late nights, that's for sure.
Good job. So where can people find you, Patrick, and also find out more about Advocately?
If you go to advocate.ly or just Google Advocately, you'll find us. You can find the free Slack product there. It's actually pretty handy. Just anytime somebody mentions you online or your competitors, and if anybody wants to get in touch with me directly, it's just patrick@advocate.ly.
Awesome. Well, Patrick, you've been a great guest. Thanks for being on the show today. Hopefully, next time we speak, it might be in a few months that you were at that 50K MRR, and keep doing what you're doing. And talking of reviews, for those that are listening, if you love this episode or even like this episode of the SaaS Revolution show, we'd appreciate if you rate and review on iTunes. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Alex.